Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Job, the 38th chapter. Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, so now the Lord, finally spoke after, the whole discourse between Job, his friends, Elihu, and, everybody else that was around there. The Lord finally speaks now. Who is this? Let me actually pull up the NLT on the side. Who is this that darkeneth counsels by words without knowledge? Who is, and I'm going to read it side by side, just, for a bit more clarity on some parts where it's like the Old English may not be too clear. So verse 2, it says, who is this that questions my wisdom with such arrogant words? Or slakia, ignorant words. Gird up now thy loins like a man, for I will demand of thee, and thou answer me. So you want to talk about a case, you want to talk about questions, you got questions? Brace yourself, because I have some questions for you, and you must answer them. Where wast thou when I laid the foundations of the earth? Declare if thou hast understanding. So you tell me, right, NLT, where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Tell me if you know so much. Who hath laid the measures thereof, if thou knowest? Or who hath stretched the line upon it? Who determined its dimensions and stretched out the surveying line? Whereupon are the foundations thereof fastened? Or who laid the cornerstone thereof? What supports its foundations, and who laid its cornerstone? Right, which is like basically like who set up the foundations of the earth. When the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of God shouted for joy, as the morning stars sang together, and all the angels shouted for joy. Or who shut up the sea with doors when it brake forth, as if it had issued out of the womb? Who kept the sea inside its boundaries as it burst from the womb? When I made the cloud the garment thereof, and thick darkness a swaddling band for it. It says here, as I clothed it with clouds and wrapped it in thick darkness. And that swaddling band, let's look into that word real quick. Okay, a naval band or swaddling band. Let's type that in here, get a visual of that. See, a naval band. Okay. Women. Sounds like it'd be something for women. You know what? Let's just go back to the swaddling. Yeah, swaddling band. So it says here, swaddling bands were long strips of cloth like bandages used in ancient times to tightly wrap newborns, providing comfort and restricting limb movement. And I think I read somewhere, I think this was like, it would strengthen, by doing that, it would strengthen their bones as well. But basically it's like to bound or to wrap around, right? So going back to what the Lord is saying here, as he says, he wrapped basically like the seas, their bounds in thick darkness, right, in the clouds. It's like in verse 10, and break up for it my decreed place, and set bars and doors. For I locked it behind barred gates, limiting its shores, right, basically so that the sea doesn't just rage and roar everywhere. And said, hitherto shalt thou come, but no further, and there shall thy proud waves be stayed. I said, this far and no further will you come. Here your proud waves must stop. That's where you have your shores and beaches and so on. And unless the Lord sends a flood or a tsunami or something, the water doesn't pass that part. The waves could be as high as they want, but they all never pass those bounds. Hast thou commanded the morning since thy days? and caused the dayspring to know his place? Have you ever commanded the morning to appear and caused the dawn to rise in the east, that it might take hold of the ends of the earth, that the wicked might be shaken out of it? Have you made daylight spread to the ends of the earth, to bring an end to the night's wickedness? It is turned as clay to the seal, and they stand as a garment. As the light approaches, the earth takes shape like clay pressed beneath a seal. It is robed in brilliant colors. And from the wicked their light is withholden, and the high arm shall be broken. The light disturbs the wicked and stops the arm that is raised in violence. Hast thou entered into the springs of the sea, or hast thou walked in search of the depth? Have you explored the springs from which the seas come? Have you explored their depths? So you're doing all this talking, but you can't even answer one of these questions. Have the gates of death been opened unto thee? Or hast thou seen the doors of the shadow of death? Do you know where the gates of death are located? Have you seen the gates of utter gloom? Hast thou perceived the breadth of the earth? Declare if thou knowest it all. Do you realize the extent of the earth? Tell me about it if you know. Where is the way where light dwelleth? And as for darkness, where where is the place thereof? So where does light come from? And where does darkness go? That thou shouldest take it to the bound thereof, and that thou shouldest know the paths to the house thereof. Can you take each to its home? Do you know how to get there? Imagine taking light home or darkness home. That's crazy. Let's lock here 1 second. Knowest thou it because thou was then born, or because the number of thy days is great? And here the Lord is being sarcastic, right? But he's saying, but of course you know all this, for you were born before it was all created, and you are so very experienced, right, Mr. Job? Hast thou entered into the treasures of the of the snow? Hast thou entered into the treasures of the snow, or hast thou seen the treasures of the hail? Have you visited the storehouses of the snow, or seen the storehouses of hail, which I have reserved against the time of trouble, against the day of battle and war? I have reserved them as weapons for the time of trouble, for the day of battle and war. By what way is light parted, which scattereth the east wind upon the earth? Where is the path to the source of light? Where is the home of the east wind? Who hath divided a watercourse for the overflowing waters, or a way for the lightning or of thunder? It says here in the NLT, who created a channel for the torrents of rain? Who laid out the path for the lightning, to cause it to rain on the earth where no man is, on the wilderness wherein there is no man? Who makes the rain fall on barren land, in a desert where no one lives, to satisfy the desolate and waste ground, and to cause the bud of the tender herb to spring forth? Who sends rain to satisfy the parched ground, and make the tender grass spring up? Hath the rain a father? Or who hath begotten drops of dew? Does the rain have a father? Who gives birth to the dew? Out of whose womb came the ice? So who's the mother of ice? And the hoary frost of heaven, who hath gendered it? Right? Who gives birth to the frost from the heavens? That's your ice, snow. The waters are hid with a stone, and the face of the deep is frozen. For the waters turn to ice as hard as rock, and the surface of the water freezes because of that ice or that cold. Canst thou bind the sweet influences of Pleiades, or loose the bands of Orion? Can you direct the movement of the stars, binding the cluster of Pleiades, which is a constellation, or loosening the cords of Orion? Canst thou bring forth Mazzaroth in his season, Or canst thou guide Arcticus, or Slakia Arcturus with his sons? And when you go into that word or that term Mazaroth, I believe it goes into the zodiacs. What's that? Mata or Mazara. It says here the 12 signs of the zodiac and their 36 associated constellations. Yep. So Lord was hitting them with them questions. Sheesh. Where we at? Right, verse 32. So can you, in the NLT, can you direct the sequence of the seasons or guide the bear? It's another name for Arcturus, which is another constellation like Orion, with her cubs, i.e. sons, which is this metaphorical speak here, referring to those stars that make up that constellation, across the heavens. Knowest thou the ordinances of heaven? Canst thou set the dominion thereof in the earth? Do you know the laws of the universe? Can you use them to regulate the earth? And as you're listening to the Lord, ask Job these questions, it goes to show you how much, like, how intricate the world actually is. Like, creation is not a light thing. Okay, even the smallest, tiniest parts of creation, right? The leaf that you step on when you walk in, the ground you walk on, gravity, the squirrel running around. Like, imagine how complex, okay, of a mind you have to be able to even put all these things together. How do you even make a leaf? Like, what do you put together to make a leaf or a tree? And not only does the Lord create these different forms of matter and life, animate and inanimate objects, but also the relationships between them all, different types, right? You have different relationships between, man and the earth, right? We eat things of the earth. We bring out carbon dioxide. We take in oxygen. But at the same time, you have things like properties of liquid, right? Like if water touches you, you get wet. If fire, burns you, you get burnt, right? Then you have things like things that can make you dirty, okay? And then things that can make you clean. Like all these concepts and relationships and all these things, the Most High created that. And he regulates the earth with that. Definitely beyond comprehension. Verse 34, canst thou lift up thy voice to the clouds, and that abundance of waters may cover thee? Can you shout to the clouds and make it rain? Canst thou send lightnings that they may go, and say unto thee, here we are? Can you make lightning appear and cause it to strike as you direct? Who hath put wisdom in the inward parts? Or who hath given understanding to the heart? Who can number the clouds in wisdom? Or who can stay the bottles of heaven? Who is wise enough to count all the clouds? Who can tilt the water jars of heaven, i.e. making it rain? When the dust groweth into hardness, and the clods cleave fast together, when the parched ground is dry and the soil has hardened into clods, wilt thou hunt the prey for the lion, or fill the appetite of the young lions? So are you or can you capture the lion's prey for it? Meaning, like, the Lord designed lions in a certain way where their mindset, their body, everything is designed for the kind of prey that, or the habitation in which they dwell in. And he feeds them. Will you do that? When they couch in their dens and abide in the covert to lie in wait, who provideth for the raven his food? When his young ones cry unto God, they wander for lack of meat. NIV, who provides food for the ravens when their young cry out to God and wander about in hunger? So as we see here, the Lord is really, firing those questions at Job. As, he did have some things to say. So this is the Lord's response. And that brings us to the end of the book of Job, the 38th chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha Kudash. Until next time, Shalom.